Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel for another Marvel Contest of Champions video. And in this one, we're going to take a look at the first week of the new Eternity of Pain, and this one has Havok as the first boss. I happen to really like the design of this fight. You could argue that some of the objectives are a little limiting, but I'm doing this with a rank 2 Hulkbuster with some boosts, so what you're seeing is about what a rank 3 Hulkbuster unboosted would look like. And he does cover two of the objectives, namely the extra large one as well as Avengers. And I just happen to really like this fight because of two reasons, and I'll get into that a little bit later, but it really helps you understand how to fight Havok, generally speaking. But additionally, the skill of this fight is all about how to parry projectiles, and that means parrying his medium so that you can get like reparries off. And then additionally, how to parry beams like on the special 1 and the special 2. And this fight is really designed to make it that if you're nailing all of your projectile parries, you're going to have a really good time. So let's talk a little bit about the node. The main node at play here is the buff synthesis node. Now that was a node that was meant to benefit you in Act 7, because if you had an armor up and then you dashed back and got a precision, then it would convert both of those buffs into a true strike. And in Act 7, it was because they were trying to give true strike to champions that didn't have it, so that it could be a little bit more inclusive to counter some node that maybe had auto block or evade in it. Now obviously with Havok and with this node, there's no auto block, there's no evade, there's no armor to even deal with for resistances or anything like that. So True Strike is actually a completely useless buff. And what the buff synthesis does is it consumes your armor ups. So you can have a champion like Hulkbuster who has a very reliable armor up, but if you dex too much, you're gonna lose your armor up. And this Havok is so stacked that, you know, 1 or 2 plasma detonations is just going to absolutely wreck you. So that is the bad part of the node. And then on top of that, there's, you know, heal block so that you can't just, you know, infinitely heal back up from these plasmas. And it also has crumbling armor, which is pretty standard for a stacked Havok. That just means, you know, if you're not aggressive enough, you're going to lose more armors. So what it does is it means that even if you have a reliable armor champ, you need to come up with a different strategy for how to keep your armors up so that you don't have to like completely slow play and just hold block forever to control his plasma, because that would probably mean you would die from block damage, honestly. He just has too much health and attack to survive like holding block for the whole fight. So now that comes to the other part of the node, which is when you land a well-timed block, you get an armor. You have to be a little careful, obviously, if you have a precision on you, then additionally, you know, that will turn into a true strike. So, you know, you have to make sure that you don't have the precision on you. And then also, I think if you run Pacify, you could actually run into trouble here. So I wouldn't recommend running the Pacify Mastery, because if you do stun, then you could run into some trouble with the node working. So that's one thing. But the main thing that is helping you here is the node. I think it's called Immovable Object. As your combo goes up, you get these steadfast buffs on yourself, which allows you to block unblockable specials, basically. And, you know, immediately, like, they don't tell you this outright, but, you know, obviously Havok does go unblockable fairly often on his special 1 and his special 2. And then you got to think, oh, they gave me these unblockable charges. Why did they do that? And it's, of course, so that you can parry the projectiles, which will basically do two things. It gives you the armor up off of the parry because it's a well-timed block, and additionally it means you don't have to dex his specials, which would remove an armor up. So the name of the game, once again, is just parry everything. And it just really reinforces the skill of parrying and parry timing and reparrying in this fight. And now we're getting to the closing part of this fight where I realize that he's going to get to a special 3. He completely turtled up there. Now I try to do a 5-hit combo so that I can do the stun through block and get the really long stun, but of course he runs into me, but I do get a nice fat crit on that special 1 and he goes down. So definitely think he got a little lucky there. Obviously, because I was boosting, that helped. I otherwise would have died in this fight. But like I said at the beginning, this was a slightly boosted rank 2, which means it's about what a rank 3 would feel like. So if you have a rank 3 and you want to throw some boosts on him, I think you'll have an absolutely great time with him. The last thing I'll say specifically with Hulkbuster here is that you don't want to throw the special 1 into block, because that gives you too long of a stun. And, you do want to be pushing Havok to his special 2s. Those are just easier to bait and easier to parry, because it's only 1 projectile versus the 3 projectiles off of the special 1. But sometimes if you have that really long stun, he'll gain too much power and you'll have trouble baiting the special. So I only threw my special 1s off of my combo. And then the other thing is you just don't want a heavy attack with Hulkbuster here. The shocks obviously help and they give you more damage, but if perchance you don't have an armor up, whenever the shock is on Havok, it's just going to skyrocket his charges. And if you have like a moment without an armor up, you're just going to get totally screwed with that. So anyway, that was Hulkbuster. I also took him down with Angela, which I think is probably one of the easiest options here, because she can parry the projectile medium and has an even easier time of keeping her armors up without even worrying about the node. She just gets it off of throwing her special 1s and being under a bar of power. It's pretty easy. And then, if you're a true masochist, you could try Thor Ragnarok, who technically has 2 of the objectives as well. But I have seen some good stuff with like Captain America Infinity War, Sam Wilson Captain America, Apocalypse, Warlock. Those are some good options for some of the other objectives. But anyway, I really like this fight. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did like it, share it with your alliance, give it a thumbs up, and subscribe if you haven't yet. So that's going to do it for today. Thanks for checking it out, and I'll catch you in the next one.